interview with the CEO, and he asked me, can also be translated into PR, because we're gonna do some highlights because I'm bored of my hair, like I've been mentioning for months, and it's summer, so I might as well do it now. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Yesterday there was a tornado warning and it just like started raining. It was like a monsoon, and then I couldn't even like take any pictures or do any videos in my house because it was so dark. Like, my house is already dark as it is, and even like with the rain outside, it was just like there was no light, so I couldn't show you my final hair. But today I can. I just did highlights all over, and I'm super excited because I really wanted to change because I was really bored with my black hair. And I just like thought that summer would be the best time to do that change. So yeah, I really like it. I'll probably get more because I want to see like my hair pretty light, and I might as well because I've actually never done highlights all over my hair. I just normally do them like up top, or I'll do like a small change when I get a little bit bored, but I have never done like highlights all over. So I really liked it and I want to do more, so stay tuned for that. And then today I got a little bit of a late start this morning, which is less than ideal because it's the day after July 4th, so after the long weekend. I feel like I'm gonna have like a lot of emails and things to do, but I'm gonna get started on that, and then I will catch up with you a little bit later today. So I was just writing my to-do list, and I wanted to mention something. My to-do list right now only has 5 items, and that's because one of the items is going to take me a long time, and I only have on my to-do list what I'm going to be able to accomplish today. So I like how that goes, how that like works for me, because I don't feel overwhelmed, and everything else I'll just have on like my big desk calendar or on the Trello list that I created for myself for like the week. But my to-do list only has like the things that I need to get done today, so it's so satisfying when I check them off. I was working and I just saw on Twitter, Writers of Color, that there was this editor looking for like new column ideas, and I was like, yes, because I've been looking to write a column forever, and it just has not happened to me, or has not happened for me. I haven't like, I don't know, I just feel like either I haven't pitched a good one, or people are just like not interested in column writing. What I wanted to say with this is that she had exactly what it is that she wanted you to pitch. In her ask, she said, please send an overview of the column's theme, the subject, why you'd like to explore, and why it's a good fit for the magazine, and the first 3 essays that outline the personal story and your work, your writing clips. So I took my time to tell her why I thought this was a good idea, why a topic like this is kind of like missing for our generation. It can also be translated into PR, because a lot of the times I'll get pitches, and they'll just say, let me know if you're interested in covering this, but it really just does not take into account what I'm writing for at the moment or what I've written in the past. And so like outlining those things in a very easy and clear way is awesome for editors, whether you're pitching a story or whether you're pitching your client. Just saying like, this is the subject, this is what's going on, this is why I think it would be a good fit for you, this is why it's trending now, and this is how it would add to your magazine. And you don't have to take a really long time to do that. I also understand that when you're working with clients and several different clients at once, that it can become sort of a lot, and you do have to send blasts at times. If you want, you could group different sorts of blasts for different publications, or you could just pick like 5, you know, top tier publications that you really want to get your client in, and send those people personalized emails as to how and why this story could add to their readership, to the people who are reading their magazine. This is my little brunch, just some eggs and sausage, and then this is a Chick-fil-A sauce that I don't use all the time because it's highly addictive, but it's so good. I got it at this local grocery store. I don't know about you guys, but anytime I'm eating, I catch up with like YouTube videos that I haven't seen. Today I'm catching up with Kayla. She's the one that did the 21-day paleo challenge that I'm doing. She's awesome. So it's the afternoon. I've been working for all day, and I'm still not done working, but I can't be working at home anymore because that happens to me all the time, where it's like, okay, if it's the afternoon and I'm supposed to not be working, I always like go somewhere different. So I'm gonna go to this place called the Freehold in Miami. It's really cute. It's kind of like a loungy area where you can also work, which is what I like about it. You can like get a drink or get dinner and work or get a coffee. And it's also open until like pretty late, so I can work there for a while. Okay, so I went to that spot and it was closed, so now I have to go to Starbucks, which isn't the worst, but not the best. It's not the vibe I was going for. Hi guys, it's the day after yesterday. So I ended up going to Starbucks. I was just there working until nighttime, and then I just came back home. But I wanted to wrap up this video by talking about interview tips. I got a comment the other day from someone who had just recently subscribed to my channel, and she asked if I had any interview tips. And I don't think if I have done like PR interview tips, I've just probably mentioned it, but I don't think I've done like a video on that. So I thought I would share some of the things that I've learned from my interviews. I haven't interviewed in a while, but I did interview a lot when I was working in PR before the pandemic. So I have a couple of tips and tricks that I could share with you. If you're looking for PR interview tips, which is probably why you might have clicked on this video, I'm sure you've probably researched and have seen a lot, have read a lot of articles. So I'll try to do things from my perspective and the things that I think I've learned and I could help you with. So the first thing is obviously research the company and the company's background. And I know this sounds very like, okay, yeah, obviously I'm gonna do that. But one time I was actually interviewing and I didn't really do my research in terms of the CEO's backstory, and that actually informed a lot of what the company was like about. And I prepared a lot for the role that I was going to be interviewing for, like for the role interview, and not so much for like the company side of it. And it caught me by surprise because the same day that I went like inside to interview, I also did the interview with the CEO at that time because he was like on site and it just happened to work out, but I hadn't prepared for like the company-wide interview. So do as much research as you can on the company itself and the CEO and or whoever is founding the company, or like the backstory of the company, just so you have an idea. You don't have to spend all day doing that, but just familiarize yourself with that part of the process too. You also want to know what's going on in current news. That is very, very important for PR jobs and communication jobs, and any jobs that's going to deal with the media, because you want to know what's happening. So before you go into your interview, even if you think you're not going to like necessarily talk about this, just kind of like Google search like any kind of recent news that's been going on in the media in the past 2 weeks and even like months back. Any current news, and especially current news within the media, is also very important. When I was interviewing for a more senior role at a company, I interviewed with the CEO, and he asked me about what I thought about a journalist that was moving from one network that she had worked in for like over 20 years to English news to a different network. And so I didn't even know that she was moving from one to the other, but I did know who she was. So I really just kind of was honest about it and said, oh, I didn't know that she was moving. I am familiar with her because of, I grew up listening to her and blah, blah, blah. But I was honest about it. And then I said, I'll research it and then sort of get back to you with my answer. And I did that. When I left the interview, I looked it up. And when I sent him my thank you note for interviewing with me, I sent him what I thought about, her change and that move. And so it wasn't like a huge deal, because we just kind of had a conversation about the company and about news. And usually when you're interviewing with like on a higher level, it means that you're probably gonna get picked to take the job, or that you're like the runner-up with somebody else. So by that point, you'll really just be having a conversation with the CEO, and they're not really the ones to really decide, depending on how big or small the company is. But if it's like a mid-size or large company, they're not really the ones to decide. It's just kind of like a last process to go through, and you obviously do want to make a good impression there. So it wasn't a huge deal that I didn't know about that, but it's just something to keep in mind when you're going into PR interviews. You might get asked something about current news, and you want to be prepared for that too. My next tip is to come prepared with your resume. You want to have several copies, not just one. And something that I always did is I printed it on cardstock paper. You can send it to FedEx, and for a very cheap price, they'll print it on that. And if you want to go above and beyond, if you already have samples of press releases that you've written or coverage that you've secured, even if it's like the smallest thing, it doesn't matter, or you have a sample of your blog, a blog post that you've posted that you are really proud of, and you want to print that out for them to see your writing capabilities if it's more entry level and you have like no prior experience. Have samples of social media that you've curated or that you've helped grow. Take a picture of that account, take a picture of the photos that you did, the copywriting, like all of that stuff will count to include in your portfolio. There's never like, you always have something to show, whether it's like a project that you did in college, or it's like an internship sample that you want to show, if it's like a portfolio. So have that all printed on like cardstock paper along with your resume, and you can even bind it together in like those like clear kind of folders, or however you want to bind it in FedEx. It's definitely worth doing. It's gonna cost you probably like $10 extra, but it's definitely worth doing, especially if you're really interested in the job, in the company, and you really want to make a good first impression. It's worth kind of compiling all your work together in a folder and presenting it to them in that way, because it just seems like you're more prepared. You didn't just bring your resume along, you kind of just went the extra mile to show them what you're able to do for them. And that's a really important mindset to have always, like what you're able to do with for the company. It's not what the company could do for you, it's what you're able to do for the company. But then it's like, yeah, what the company can do for you, obviously. I think just having that mindset of what you can do for them is gonna like put you in a really good spot when you're interviewing. Depending on your role, if it's entry level, you might not get asked this, but if it's a more associate role or a senior role, you might get asked to take a writing exam. Now, some agencies or companies will send you the writing exam and then you have to send it back to them, and it won't be in the first interview typically. Some will have you take it when you're already there. I've done both, so just, you know, be prepared for that. Allot enough time for that. They'll usually let you know if they're gonna have you take a writing sample, whether they're gonna send it to you or write it on site. So if you're somebody who just gets a little bit nervous with that, or your writing is not your strength, just also like ask and be prepared for that too. I've had to take a writing test for a lot of the positions that I've applied to. And for one, I even had to create a strategy for their current client, which is really nerve-wracking because I wasn't sure like where the standing was with their client, but I did my best and they ended up really liking it and going with one of my ideas later on in like their official strategy. So that was really cool. So yeah, in more senior roles, you might be asked to like create strategy, send in writing samples, do all kinds of work before you actually get the job. And lastly, I want to share a couple of interview questions that I always ask that are actually much more honest and will probably give you an insight as to what the role is about. The first one is, what's the day-to-day like for this position? Because you obviously want to know. It might be doing the same thing every day, it might not be. Usually if you're working in PR, you're definitely not doing the same thing every day. And you can ask them like, what percentage is writing, what percentage is events, because some companies will do more events than others. So it just depends on the company that you're applying for and the role that you're applying for. What are some of the challenges one might face in this role? That's a really good one because you want to be prepared and you want to understand what it is that you're coming into. The last one is, what's the company's retention rate? And within each department too, because I was working in this role once and I didn't ask that question because we had already kind of discussed that, me and the HR person, that the company, a lot of the people within the actual company had been there for a long time, but she didn't specify that it was in different departments, not necessarily in the PR department. And as I started working there and seeing like how the company really was, I realized that a lot of people from the PR department had quit often. Like people from the PR department weren't working there for many years. They were working there for like 1 or 2 years, you know. So that gave me so much insight, because when I was actually within the department and working within the department, I was just like seeing all these things that were going wrong and like the things that I wouldn't necessarily handle or manage in that way. And so it made sense that a lot of people sort of dropped, like the retention rate for that specific department was low, but the retention rate for like the company in general was really good. The CEO and the leadership for that company was awesome, but perhaps the leadership for the specific department I was working with had a bit more to learn about managing people and just, you know, whatever. So it just depends. But like with everything, just learning and knowledge comes from experience. So I hope that through my experiences, I could help you in your interview process. If you have any questions about it, or if you'd like me to go into much more detail about the process, the questions, etc., comment down below and let me know, because I'll make like a whole dedicated video about this. But these are just tips that I've kind of learned throughout my process. I hope you liked this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If it helped you, give it a thumbs up, because that would help me. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you back here next time.